Welcome to World of Light Girls School, a boarding school where no one is permitted to live. Many years ago, Prince and his stunning bride Tara, the jewel of the people, resided in the city of Asaba by Elsa State. They were affluent folks who lived in a castle-like palace with a high wall and enormous tiger-sized canines guarding it, like an Iroko tree. Their security was strong, with formidable faces and physiques comparable to those of bouncers. Bella and Sonia, the couple's two gorgeous daughters, were pampered, unruly youngsters. People respected Prince and Tara as the ideal power pair, and young girls even saw them as role models. They held a number of properties, orphanages, schools, and other establishments. Their reputation was built on their compassion and selfless service to the community. The pair ran a number of women's empowerment groups and NGOs that had educated thousands of young people and women in schools and vocational training facilities. In Johnson State, they were treated like celebrities and adored by the public. TV stations and photographers would pursue them everywhere they went, attempting to record every second of their lives. They resembled the neighborhood Beyoncé and Jay-Z. They went almost everywhere together, sweetly holding each other's hands for the cameras. The pair and their two kids would attend church every Sunday to pray and worship with great fervor and devotion, raising their holy hands in prayer.
However, for the sake of public perception and the camera, everything was a performance. The life they led behind the high fence they had constructed around themselves was far from ideal. They lived together in the same home, as if they were business associates. Indeed, those tall walls concealed profound secrets that could cause even demons to bow down and pay respect to Prince and his wife, Tara. Young girls between the ages of 14 and 19 were treated like chickens in a cage, laying eggs at the couple's unique boarding school. From the outside, it appeared to be a typical all-girls boarding school, where less fortunate girls were given the chance to attend a good school and improve their prospects for the future. However, there was a daily occurrence of something dark and ominous within. The girls were not taught how to read or write in the boarding school. No, the ladies were never taught. They were instead taught how to procreate. Tara misled the girls by pretending that they were headed to a reputable private school, which she seduced them with her lovely lips and kind smile. The girls then entered the building right away. Bah! They were never permitted to leave. No holidays, no breaks. It resembled jail, except there were no concrete prison barriers. Grace, a stunning 17-year-old, was the first female Tara ever brought to the boarding school. She was a hard-working young woman from Asabo in Kaduna.
Near Tara's Women Empowerment Center, she worked as a salesgirl for a lady who sold rice and pepper soup. Grace was an orphan with 4 younger siblings back home. Tara was so kind to the needy girl that she gave her free food and pocket money every day for months while watching her. Grace put her faith in Tara. She was, after all, the well-known television personality who assisted the needy. Grace was delighted that Tara even acknowledged her. After that, Tara one day informed Grace about the unique boarding school where she may attend class and prepare for a successful career that would support her assemblies. Grace was overjoyed to learn the news, since she had no idea what Tara was planning. Her madam never enrolled her in school. With peanuts pay and harsh treatment, she was compelled to labor in the restaurant all day. Tara's advice to Grace was seen by her as a great chance to improve her life. Tara's NGO had, after all, benefited thousands of women. Tara was invited to the exclusive boarding school by her, and she accepted without giving it any thought, even if she didn't tell her madam. Tara brought Grace to a unique home with a large television, the like of which she had never seen before. The house had it all: a 5-star hotel, a large bed, and an abundance of housemaids. Grace received a new outfit and pair of shoes from Tara. In that home, she ate the finest of foods, and she was even given pocket money to support her younger siblings back home. After years of hardship, Grace felt as though her life was at last beginning to come into focus. Madam Tara told her one day that it was time to return to school, and things had been going well up until that point. She instructed Grace to pack her belongings in preparation for enrolling her in her unique boarding institution. Grace ended up at the unusual institution in that manner. Tara showed a different side of herself to her as soon as she entered the campus. The side that the public couldn't see.
because it was concealed behind a mask. But it was already too late. She was unable to depart. She was unable to flee. There was a lot of security everywhere. Grace was restricted to the confines of that boarding school. Her innocence was stolen, her hopes were dashed, and her dreams were shattered. Since Tara Lee Day, she has also given birth to 2 children. Before she could ever see their faces, though, her children were constantly taken away. And she was trapped in that jail with no chance of getting out, praying for a miracle every day. The next girl Tara brought into the school, under false pretenses, was Zara, a 17-year-old girl from Sokoto, whom Tara found at an orphanage. She informed the orphanage proper that she was sending Zara to her private boarding school, where she would learn alongside students from wealthy families and have a better future after graduation. And Zara was given away by the owner, who had faith in Tara.
No drama and not too many questions. Everybody, after all, was aware that Tara was a virtuous lady and the only supporter of the orphanage. Zara ended up at the school in that manner as well. Zainab, a lovely girl from Kano State, and Princess and Funka, along with the other girls who were duped by Tara and Prince, were the next. The school's student population grew to over 1,000 females in a few years. Some parents, who were having difficulty enrolling their daughters in school, were even praying that their daughters would be selected to attend that prestigious institution. If only they had known. Girls with parents were never chosen by Tara. She chose orphans and young ladies from distant locations. The school began to establish a reputation over the course of time. It attracted more girls. A few of them were taken there after being abducted, and the amount of baby necessities just kept growing. Prince and Tara had wealth and popularity. They gained in power and popularity. As their cupboard became covered in so many cobwebs, they established additional training facilities and NGOs for the general public. However, what do they see? Bella and Sonia attended a house party hosted by their boyfriends after they snuck out of their parents' mansion one night. The thief had several days, while the owner had only one. Unaware that their cherished children were out partying, Prince and Tara were sound asleep. Their lover picked them up in a car outside their gates, and they all went to the party together. They spent the evening drinking and dancing till they became dizzy. They had the best time of their lives. However, there was a turn of events that evening. Their boyfriend put bizarre pills in their drink, which caused them to lose their senses and eventually lose consciousness. The boys transported the girls to the waiting vehicle outside, and they drove away into the night toward an unknown place. The boys, who were unaware that Bella and Sonia were Tara's daughters, apparently worked for Tara, deceiving young women and enticing them to the boarding school. The girls woke up to discover that they were enrolled in World of Light boarding school, a strange all-girls boarding school that their wicked parents had founded. There, like the other girls, they were forced to put up with the school's challenges. The following day, meanwhile, arrived at Tara's home. Tara went to the girls' bedroom to rouse them in preparation for school. However, when she arrived at their rooms, she found nothing but emptiness. The girls had vanished. They scoured everywhere that day, turned the entire house upside down, but were unable to locate their daughters. Despite Prince's hours of searching, he ultimately utilized his connection to have the police and private investigators begin the definitive search, but they discovered nothing. Prince and his wife were in disarray. They speculated that their girls may have been abducted, but they waited a day, 3 days, and a week without hearing from the girls or their adoptive parents. The pair employed the fire department, navy, army, and police. However, none of their efforts were successful. The hell they had made for other people's kids was where their girls were cooling off. Tara's blood pressure skyrocketed in a panic after around 2 weeks. They asked their pastor to come over and pray and fast for their daughter's safe return. Their pastor fasted, prayed, and the poor man nearly passed out on top of their situation. But nothing occurred. The pair then made the decision to seek answers from other sources. Extreme measures are necessary in extreme situations. They went to several witch doctors. At night, they lured fish in the river. They climbed mountains and performed various sacrifices. But nothing happened. The evil that a man commits stays with him. In no time, 1, 3, and 6 months had gone by,
and the pair were at a loss for words and terrified. They had begun to give up, believing that their daughters might actually be gone. Tara called the special boarding school for help one day. She was the chief midwife in charge of the girls. "Madam, hello. I'm at a loss for what to do at this point," the old woman said, explaining that one of the new girls who had been brought in was really ill.
"We have tried all we could, but her situation is getting worse by the day." She added, "What do you mean? Is that what I pay you millions for? Are you expecting me to come and treat her by myself?" Tara said, as she flared up in rage, still grieving the odd disappearance of her daughter. "I'm sorry, I don't have time for this nonsense. Leave her to die if you can't care for her," Tara said from the other side of the phone, unaware that the ailing girl at the boarding school was actually her own child, Sonia. Sonia had been on a strict diet and regimen for years because she had asthma. In addition, she was now stranded at the institution without the proper medications. Her asthma had gotten worse as a result of her nutrition and lifestyle, making it hard for her to walk or breathe. Her life was slipping away daily, and the midwives were powerless to stop it because they lacked the necessary drugs. Tara refused to help the head midwife, who couldn't stand the idea of losing another girl in the boarding school, and repeatedly begged Tara to bring a doctor to treat the child. She had too much on her plate. She also attempted to contact Prince to request assistance, but the man warned her not to bother him. After a week of struggle with her illness, Sonia passed away in Ella's arms one night. The other girls simply looked on with sadness on their faces. They had witnessed too many deaths in the school to be taken aback. This happened every week at the institution.
Sonia's body was then taken to the rear of the school by the school security and the midwives, who buried her in the mass grave. Other unlucky girls who passed away at the institution were buried by them, and with the exception of Ella, everyone went on with their work, as if a chicken had passed away. She wept incessantly, both day and night. She felt accountable for what had occurred, and her twin sister had left. That night, she pulled Sonia out of bed and brought her to the party with her, and with that, Sonia ceased to exist. Prince and Tara, on the other hand, were still consulting with private detectives in an attempt to ascertain the precise circumstances surrounding the disappearance of their children. In an effort to find their children, they had turned the entire metropolis upside down in a pit, but it was as if they had simply vanished into thin air. Tara went to her daughter's school, friends, and everyone who had intimate relationships with the girls, but each time, she was met with excruciating frustration. The day after Sonia passed away, Tara drove to the school in a white SUV with a lot of security. She came to the school to oversee the school's operations, inspect the girls, and remove the infants for her work at that time of the month. For the past few years, the day began as it usually does. All of the girls were lined up in a big classroom for the inspection. Tara entered the classroom that day with authority, using her eyes to count the number of girls there. However, all of a sudden, a voice rang out from the throng of females. "Mommy, Mommy!" Tara turned quickly to identify the origin of that voice, which sounded like her daughter's. Then, her gaze fell on Ella, the girl for whom she had turned Asaba upside down. Tara was so taken aback that she stumbled backward and nearly fell. But how? In what way did she find herself in this predicament? She was trembling from her core, and her thoughts were changing every second. She was overcome by remorse. The trap she set for other people's children had ensnared her own daughter. The assessment had to be stopped by Tara. After what she had done that day, she couldn't even bear to glance Ella in the face as she fled the classroom in tears. Ella was led into the security's car, and they all departed the boarding school. Throughout the journey, Tara wept. Her greed and wickedness in opening that school had ultimately destroyed her own life, and that of her children, when they arrived at their mansion. Everything that had transpired in the school was recounted to her husband by Tara, and he was utterly taken aback. "How did you get there, Ella?" With tears running down his cheeks, the prince inquired as to the location of his sister. "We attended a house party several months ago, and the following day my parents and I were in that school with the other girls. During our stay, Sonia became ill.
And despite the fact that they were unable to cure her, she continued to experience asthma symptoms for several days before she died. The word of Prince and Tara's daughter gave them goosebumps. The midwife had been discussing the girl a few weeks earlier, and they realized at that moment that it was Sonia. As they wept uncontrollably and lamented their lives, the pair fell to the ground. What were you doing in that school, Mum? What are those girls doing there? What reason do they have for keeping girls in that school? Let's tell the police, Ella said. Mommy. However, Tara and Prince were unable to respond. They just looked at their daughters in dread. The day's disclosures have left me speechless. The family sobbed uncontrollably. However, guilt made Prince and Tara weep even harder. They never imagined, not even in their wildest dreams, that they would be faced with this disaster. They came to the conclusion that this led them to kill their own kids. Ella couldn't get any sleep that night. She was in bed, reflecting about the other females who were still stranded in the institution. She thought about her parents and how they had dodged her queries earlier. They seemed to be heavily involved in the events of that institution, in her opinion. Ella decided that she would not remain silent that night after being saved. She pledged to save the other girls as well.
Ella went to the police station in a cab the following day to describe everything she had experienced at that horrible school. They didn't believe her at first. However, they gave her a seat and paid attention to everything she had to say when she proved to them that she was the daughter of Prince and Tara. Ella shared everything she had seen, heard, and felt in the institution that day. Ella responded yes when the DPO questioned her about her ability to find the school. The day her mother brought her back home, she had committed every course they took to memory. The police DPO called his superior that day and told him about a potential trafficking case happening right under their nose in the city. And the higher-ups gave him complete control over the deployment of personnel and the raid of the suspected location. The officers and Ella went to World of Light Girls' School. They were also astonished to discover during their raid on the institution that it was not a boarding school at all. It was a farm for producing children. The girls were put into coal buses and transported directly to the hospital that day, along with the security officers and midwives who were taken into custody. The crowding that occurred within the school was reported by news outlets and social media in a matter of hours, and the public was taken aback. On the same day, the cops shut down the school and brought the faculty to the station for interrogation.
They admitted all of their crimes when they arrived at the police station. They told the cops that they were well compensated for operating the school covertly. They acknowledged that Prince and Tara were the ones who hired them for the position, which they have held for several years. The word about the terrible boarding school quickly spread throughout the town, and when Prince and his wife realized that their cover had been blown, they made an attempt to leave the nation. However, the police cooperated with immigration officials to catch them at the airport and take them to the police station, where they would be held accountable for their offenses under the full force of the law. The questioning came to a halt. At first, Tara and Prince refuted any connection, but after weeks of investigation, they were able to piece everything together and determine that Prince and his wife were the focus of the dark web. Under the severe questioning, Tara ultimately succumbed and admitted all of their offenses. She informed the police officers that she lured young girls into the school on false pretenses, and that the midwives inseminated them so they would become pregnant. The newborns were then removed after the girls were put to bed, and they were sold for millions of naira to fertility centers and hospitals for couples who were unable to conceive. Tara admitted that they also utilized their training facilities and NGOs as a front for laundering money for their affluent customers.
The whole nation watched her confession live, and everyone was frightened by it. Tara's confession caught the prince off guard, who had formally refuted every accusation, and he eventually capitulated. The couple and the wicked crew were all given life sentences with hard labor to aid the girls in their recovery and adaptation to life outside of captivity. They were placed in group counseling. All the victims received complete scholarships from the government. Additional NGOs throughout the nation assisted the victims by providing lodging and food, as well as by assisting them in becoming productive members of society and themselves. The clinic where the youngsters were sold was closed by the government, and the majority of Prince and Tara's assets were seized and sold off for the benefit of the public. To permanently eliminate the danger, such as Prince and Tara, from society, a specific task force was established.